Oh, look at that. It's time for Troops, little Zoom from quarantine show. Bring it in. David Thorpe, how the heck are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. I think we're very, very prepared for today's show. Do you agree?
When aren't we?
This is a special one, though. I think we really like I could do the hour right now from my head. It's we prep so much. But I have a surprise. I have a surprise first question for you, which is inquiring minds want to know. Hold on. So, on this show a couple weeks ago, I mentioned my incredible new electric toothbrush, and you asked exactly what model it was because you were going to get one. And then we got a comment from David M about a week ago saying all this basketball talk is fine. People want to know, did David take Henry's advice and get an electric toothbrush?
It's amazing that you would ask that. So I will admit that, yes, I did, but I got an Oral B. I don't even know why. I did. I saw what you recommended and I did some searching and I just bought the Oral B and I'm very happy.
I have good news for you, David. They're actually the same company. I think we had the same toothbrush.
I took your advice. I don't think you really care what brand I bought. I've not had these things before. They tend to break faster than I'd want, but yes, I have one. I'm very pleased. Thank you.
How clean are your teeth right now? Super clean, right?
Considering I had an uncle who's a dentist. My papa was a dentist. It was a big deal in my family. So yes, I have clean teeth.
The only downside I can tell, and it's not a big one, is that I can no longer hear anybody say anything while I'm brushing my teeth, right? Sometimes it happens, right? The door's open in the bathroom and people are busy in the morning. It's like, oh, Dad, can you pick me up? Whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you just said, because I'm brushing my teeth, damn it. But it's like a dental visit every time.
I do most of my work in my office because I'm here first thing in the morning, and I do it after I have my green tea. And I can't hear the NBA games at night when I have it on. Oh, did we lose Henry? Or do we lose me?
I'm going to kick him off. Looks like we lost him.
So I'm okay then, right?
You're totally fine. Bye, Henry. See you in a minute.
So he just came back. Randy asked about the water pick. Judy, you want me to keep going? I know what we're going to do first.
Sure. Get started.
Well, I'll go right to, we published an article yesterday about Joel Embiid. And, he's been great for, hey, Henry, we're just starting out talking Embiid and then we'll go back. Apparently, the basketball guys don't want us to talk about teeth anymore. And I'm with them.
Okay.
So I was watching Embiid last week. I might even mention it, I think, to Gerard on Friday. And I noticed just an incredibly agile looking version of him on defense. And if you remember, Henry, months ago, I picked the Hawks to beat the Sixers because I thought Embiid was physically damaged. And I was only half right. I got the Hawks part right, and I got the Embiid damage part right, except it was on defense that he didn't move so well. Offensively, he was amazing against Atlanta. And that is not this Joel Embiid. This guy is fucking unbelievable. And so I after watching my defense, I started looking at his offense and realizing he can do everything. But that is a danger, Henry, to a lot of players, because it's almost like the guy that finally can make a three, and it's like a new toy. He always plays with three, but it's not a great toy. This guy is playing like Shaq. He has a disposition to dominate, which is what I wrote, and destroying people in the paint. He's got every trick in the book, but he's just using his physicality, his size. He's in great shape, it looks to me, very fit. And he and Jokic is the best player in the world, but Embiid's right there now. We'll see how long it lasts. Jokic has done this now for a season and a half. But this Joel Embiid, with anyone that the Sixers could ultimately trade for Ben Simmons, can take Philadelphia to the championship. They may not get there, but he's good enough to do so much more work than almost anybody else.
You know what's interesting, is only occurring to me now, which is stupid, but there was a lot of talk last summer about where Damian Lillard would want to play. The Sixers naturally came up because of the whole Ben Simmons thing. And the feedback I got was that there was a little bit of worry about Joel's health, right? Was he going to be on the court enough to be like a championship teammate? And this fitness, right, that you're writing about, while Damian's just pointing out, I think pretty sure he's getting his surgery in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think that, we talk about being in shape for lots of reasons, but I don't think enough of talk is being made about getting in great shape just to not be as likely to be hurt. And as you know, I've told you this since the Greg Oden days. Just the bigger you are at that size, the more bad things wrong can happen. And so just being as fit as you can be makes a difference in every part of your game, to include just being healthier. So they lost yesterday. They just are missing some guys, and Washington isn't, but he was amazing. Yeah,
do you think he's lost weight?
My guess is he's done two things. My guess, he's leaned out. I don't know if that's right. Also meant loss of weight, although he looks better. I wouldn't be surprised if he lost a little weight, but I would almost guarantee you he's leaned out significantly. Yeah. He's moving really well.
And then I shared this little video of him sort of mimicking the moves of Kobe and MJ, and I think you're gonna have a.
Yeah. Oh boy. You still hear me, Judy? Oh, there he is again. He's okay. So yes, Henry. It's a super cool video. First of all, it's Joel Embiid making all these incredible scoring moves, and then I guess whoever Drew hired to do it, edits it in. Jordan doing it, and there's Joel doing the same kind of moves, and Kobe. And I would tell you that I would argue that everyone in the league does these same things. The best players in the league do them way more often, but watch LaMarcus Aldridge shoot a fadeaway jump shot. Watch a G League player shoot a fadeaway. They all kind of look the same. Those are fundamentals. What makes the elite players elite is that they can keep doing it no matter what defense is thrown at you. And so, but the reason why you put this on there, I think, is because I made the argument in the article that he's moving like a small forward. Well, here's two much smaller guys that he's spliced in. And that is what's amazing, is that he's 7 feet tall, looking like those guys. And more importantly, it's not in this video, but when you watch him move in games, he's moving like a small man. And I think that if you didn't know how huge he was, you wouldn't realize it until you stood next to him. He is a giant, moving like a guard.
Well, those days of like bigs at this end of the gym and like wings at the other end, and these people work on ball handling and moving.
Long gone.
Don't, right? That's all gone.
Yeah.
When I was in Atlanta, I went to Overtime Elite, and like they literally, all the stuff that just the point guards and shooting guards would do, the big men all do in those practices, which I know makes you happy.
I've stressed that for years. I treat all my players like basketball players. Our big guys do guard drills, ball handling every day. I think it actually helps them move better when you do not just stationary, but movement ball handling. But I also work with big guys on guards on big man moves, which are not big man moves. They're just moves in the paint.
Right.
And in the days of switching, you might be 6'5", but if you get the cheese man on you at 5'11", take him inside and score over him, whatever. Scottie Barnes, a great example of a guy that doesn't really have any clear-cut part of his game intact, but he'll play bully ball. He can score around you, even though he played point guard a lot growing up, or guard anyway. So, be a basketball player. That's what we're trying to get to in the game anyway.
Well, there's this stuff like, now if you like the bit, let's say who would it be? If Rudy Gobert is out on the perimeter with a 6'1", guarding Kyrie Irving or whatever, like, is that a mismatch or not? And it really depends on how can Rudy move laterally,
right?
Which is measurable now, right? And you can work on it. It's plastic. Like, we know you can change that. So to me, like, it's super important to the Jazz. It's super important to Rudy's career if he can move like that. It's so crazy to divide practice so that he does not work on that, right? Like, of course you want him to work on that. Like, it's career hinges on it now.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in, as I was saying, if you work on that stuff. I had one player tell me a couple years ago, 6'10", tall kid, NBA player, that he feels he guards better on switches after learning how to handle the ball and attack like a guard.
Oh, right.
He feels like he can kind of just get into their head a little bit. What is he setting me up for? I never even thought about that, honestly. I just knew it was working. I don't always figure out the details so fast. I just know a big picture of what works. And this is where the game is going. And by the way, the great thing about Rudy is, someone put this on Twitter the other day, Henry, that some guard made a dribble move, attacked the basket. Rudy was on him. And the guy never once looked at the rim because Rudy was next to him. He just never put his eyes up. He just dribbled right back out of the paint, threw the ball to somebody else.
Wow.
That's the benefit of being Rudy Gobert on a Switch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so we have a lot to get to, but quickly, I'm going to plug this little Robert Ludlum thing that I've been working on. This was the book. So the story is that in way back at the beginning of this Jeffrey Epstein saga, I think I published the 21st part. There's a mention that one of the key characters is nicknamed by his coworkers Shep because of the character who has that nickname in this Robert Ludlum novel, which came out in '79. And so I read the book and just tried to find like what's the deal? Like, what's that about? And I don't know. I'll stop there, but it's very fun to be doing this sort of part of the project. What's going on?
That's what Judy thinks he looks like. That's so funny, Judy.
Obviously, Judy's been hacked and has someone is swapping in the villain from what movie is that?
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
And Michael Milken. That's what's happening on the screen if you're listening to the audio only. But Michael Milken's the person that they call Shep. That's in the real world, but in the fake world, there's so many echoes of the Epstein story in this Ludlum book, and it's sort of hair raising. I thought it was kind of fun.
Robert Ludlum hits me right in my heart, as I told you. You know, it's one of the first things that my dad told me about that besides sports that I liked, and I read everything, every single thing Robert Ludlum ever wrote by himself. And I think you and I were talking on the phone earlier too about clearly he tried to be accurate to some degree as he wrote his fictional novels, but there, as a lot of great fiction, it's steeped in a lot of truth, I would guess.
And he talked about like what his motivation was in writing. So a lot of times it was he got angry about something that was real, right? And so he'd write, that was his motivation in writing. There's a lot of stuff that's in this book that I didn't get in here, but like there's a part where they like go to the James Bond style party in Italy and they like confront the bad guy. And then he writes this, men like Paravicini need above all things political stability. They pour fortunes into governments that have it and candidates who promise it because they lose fortunes when it isn't there. It sounds like a line from Ludlum, but I'm telling you, at the PutinCon conference, literally like the finest scholars in the world explain like exactly that. Like that's how oligarchs are. Like they need to invest in US real estate because US real estate isn't seized when the government changes, right? Like, and on and on. I was just like, there's so many parts of this. I'm like, oh my God, 1979. He probably wrote it a year before, right? It takes a while to write a book. 78, he's just rattling off like a lot of stuff that took me till 2019 to figure out what was going on. Cool.
And don't forget that as we're talking now on a daily basis, there's articles written by enterprising journalists who are exposing corporations who are funding politicians who believe in the big lie. But it's happening right now.
Oh, big time.
Major companies are funding these same people perpetrating a total lie to try to rig future elections.
Yeah. Robert Ludlum's all over that crap.
Oh yeah, he was way ahead of his time. Yeah.
All right. So this David and I did talk on the phone a lot, and he calls me with basketball observations, which are fascinating. I was particularly interested in this thing that happened last night with Gabe Vincent. So actually, we should start with the early in the game. Scottie Barnes has an unbelievable dunk in transition, and then to just now, just like in the last hour. Oh, sorry. Let's watch this.
Yeah, this was a big part of the game. There's 9 to go in the fourth. There's a great game. He dunks on 2 guys and just crashes into a woman. And Barnes was hurt. You can't see on video, unless your screen is huge. He's limping right there. He crashed violently, which was why the dunk was so amazing. To me, there was no way he wasn't going to get hit pretty hard. This was going to end in a crash. Dunking full speed, and he hammer dunked it. And Kobe Martin really pushed him from behind. They actually got to review this, Henry. Tyler Hero made a clean play. Martin from behind pushed him, and that's when Barnes look at that violent crash.
Looks like it hurts, yeah.
They had to check to see if it was a flagrant foul. People were asking me on Twitter last night if I thought it was. I really didn't even pay attention to what Martin did. I was amazed at Scotty knowing this is going to end in a crash.
Yeah. And
he did it anyway. That's a reckless play by him, but only he was the one who was putting himself at risk. So I can't get mad at him. I don't like reckless plays a lot when other people are in danger. Unbelievable play, but it sets up for now we're in the last minute of the game. And I told you on the phone, Like this, the announcer even said this. As I'm watching the game, I thought, okay, there's something going on here. This is a fucking intense game. The Raptors are barely in the playoffs right now, but playing much better. I think they'll be a playoff team. Miami's competing for a 1 seed, even though they were missing, Kyle Lowry's been out, Bam Adebayo for a long time. Made his return yesterday. Jimmy Butler only played 20 some odd games, so like a week ago. And so it just felt like a playoff game. And I think it was the Heat color commentator late in the game he said, this feels like a postseason game. And he was right. It did. So now there's
Did you see what Scottie Barnes tweeted right before our show?
No.
He just tweeted, I think it's in there if you can show it, Judy. He tweeted that play, same play we just watched, and he said, hope that lady's okay, whoever she is. And you can see he's just like, there's a woman in the front row, just takes all of the force of here. Whoever that lady in the stands is, I hope you're okay.
That's what you meant. I'm sorry. Yeah. I forgot to mention the main part, which he was checking to see on this lady. Cool. Of course he's you know how I feel about him. Scottie and that woman, she's sore. Ice. The Heat should have brought her a bag of ice, honestly, before she left. Seriously. Unless she was a Raptors fan.
No, she's in a Heat jersey.
Trucked.
She's in a Heat jersey.
Yeah, he's 200 some odd pounds. But anyway, so they're down 3. The Raptors are with less than a minute. They get kind of a loose ball steal. And now Barnes is trucking down the left side. Gabe Vincent is back by himself. No one knows who Gabe Vincent is, which is we'll talk about that in a second. And here comes Pascal Siakam, who's now playing like an all-NBA player again on the right side. It's a lob dunk. You see it coming a mile away. In fact, Siakam gives it up early to get the lob dunk. And Gabe Vincent intentionally fouls Scottie Barnes, just kind of shoves him. There you see how Siakam gives it up early to get it back?
Like before the free throw line. Yeah.
Yeah, gave it up early to get it back. That's exactly what Siakam knew what he was doing. And Gabe Vincent, right away I'm watching live and I'm thinking, yeah, Scottie probably is not likely to make 2 free throws in terms of probability compared to Siakam's lob dunk, which was almost a sure thing. But they were not in the bonus yet. Incredibly. Like when in the last minute of the game, of the fourth quarter of an NBA game, where is a team not in the bonus? But they weren't. And as soon as Gabe Vincent fouled him, he pointed to the sideline saying side out. He knew exactly what he was doing. Now, he probably, in the last timeout, was mentioned. But so what? People forget all the time that kind of stuff in the heat of the moment. And it saved the game, Henry, because the Raptors ended up getting, Anunoby drove. I thought he got fouled, but they called a jump ball. He was incredulous that they called a jump ball. And the Raptors did not gain possession on the jump ball. And that kind of was the end of the game, more or less. So, great job, Gabe Vincent, who was a two-way player a couple years ago, meaning he wasn't guaranteed a dime more than what they were paying him that day, but he was guaranteed a certain number up to that point. And then he signed a multi-year deal this offseason, which is probably nothing guaranteed. I didn't look into it, but I think it's a 3-year deal and nothing's probably guaranteed after, until January 10th each year. And yet here he is making a huge play, and he's been very good for them. And that leads to what Doc Rivers, I know you mentioned something. Go ahead.
Yeah, Doc Rivers said they played again, and Omer, your 7 was really good. And he said, I don't know where they keep finding these guys. It pisses me off. Gabe Vincent's 25 and he has yet to play in his 100th game. So he's like a young player, which is.
And meanwhile, the Lakers started yesterday, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Trevor Ariza, and Avery Bradley. A really good team from 2012, but it's 2022 now.
Yeah.
And they won. They beat Utah. We can talk about it later, but as I've said 1,000 times to you on air and on the phone, there's just a whole bunch of Gabe Vincents out there. There's a whole bunch of your 7s out there. You got to coach them up. Yeah, you got to find them. I'm not saying the scouts didn't do their job, but I'm telling you, those guys and plenty of other franchises, they would not be good enough.
Well, and the way you have to defend now, right? It's about covering tons of ground. So actually, a big failure of my time at ESPN was I wanted to make this visual of how many square feet you have to defend against each team. We had second spectrum data at the time. I'm like, if Steph is shooting if you're going to guard Steph a yard over the half court line, you just the apartment you have to clean is much bigger, right? Like you've got a lot more square footage to worry about, right? And this is where older players are kind of screwed because, Trevor Ariza can't get out that far as fast as Gabe Vincent can.
Right. So exactly how I put it to you today, you're right about Steph Curry, but it's everybody.
Yeah.
Almost everyone is shooting deeper than ever before. If you had done that 10 years ago and then we did it now, I would argue that NBA defenses have to guard more space than ever before in the history of the game at any level, anywhere in the world.
Sure.
Okay. And so because of that, and it's not just one player, it's so many of them, you need to have not just 1, 2, 3, 4, but 5 guys that can chase all that space. Remember, you got to guard outside and in.
Right.
Because as you brilliantly pointed out a long time ago with Mike D'Antoni, the whole idea of shooting those threes is we can get more layups.
Right.
So I got to get guys to defend both.
Right.
And so Dwight Howard, Trevor Ariza, I mean, LeBron is not the same as he used to be. The young guys have that as an advantage. The advantage the old guys have, Henry, is the anticipatory skills are more refined because they're just more experienced. They know a split second earlier than the average young guy where something's going. So you can make up a step by recognizing it a millisecond earlier. That's where coaching comes in. So if you can get your young guys to recognize it as quickly as the old guys in many cases anyway, well, now the athleticism is an advantage again. So like I was watching Toronto, Miami yesterday, I just felt like both of these, Miami's going to be, they're going to be a top 4 seed almost for sure. But if Toronto can fix their 5 spot, which I think is an issue for them, and they may not be able to, like they can knock someone out of the first round because they are going to be able, Scottie Barnes won't be a rookie anymore. And he's still young, but they've got a bunch of guys that are super switchable, athletic. They're driving more. Siakam is playing like an all-NBA player, and that means other guys are going to benefit from his just presence on the court. They're going to cause problems for teams because of what they can do defensively, I think.
Yeah, I failed. So now the question is basically, we're going to play the game at a speed that's uncomfortable for 34-year-olds, right? Is the idea. So the question is, can you put like the computer chip in the brain of the 25-year-old to like make great choices at that speed, like the example you just gave? So we were just, I wanted to see minutes adjusted roster age, because in this COVID year, everyone's roster is not what we thought it was going to be. I couldn't find it. It has been published in the past, but I couldn't find one for this year. But just average roster age, like we're noticing that some of the league's youngest teams are really good, right? Memphis Grizzlies, incredibly young. Chicago Bulls are young. Raptors are young, etc. So like this kind of bodes well for some of these teams that might get a chance to one of these young teams is probably going to win a playoff series against a favorite, right? And that's going to
they'll pull an upset. Yeah. Right. So I mean, your instincts are right. That stat alone doesn't tell us enough because it lowers everyone's average age with your 13, 14, 15 guys that never get on the court. So your instinct is exactly right. And this is where I think guys like Spoelstra and Ty Lue, if he was given that roster, and Nick Nurse, this is what makes a difference in coaching. As a coach, is getting your young guys up to speed to be able to think the game. Yeah. You just described, Henry, I thought, the best description of why LeBron is the best of all time over the course of his career, because he still moves like he's much younger, often, not always, but often. And yet, I mean, you want to talk, I said the same thing about Tom Brady in football. How lucky the offensive line is to play with a guy with that kind of intellect, to understand pass coverages and offensive blocking schemes. Yeah. It's a science that we would never understand. Well, that's LeBron. And so how lucky. The problem is he's coaching a bunch of really old guys too. I think by year's end, if they can hang around and be a playoff team, Malik Monk will be playing better than ever. I think Kendrick Nunn, if they can ever get him healthy, if they keep Talon Horton Tucker, Austin Reeves, their rookie, these guys will benefit from LeBron's brain if he injects it. We don't know if he will. He might just get frustrated too.
It's not how, I mean, it hasn't been how it usually goes with young LeBron teammates, right? Like, look at Kyle Kuzma, right? I watched him last year, and I know you got a ton of thoughts, but last year it was a lot of run to the corner and stand there because they didn't trust him to do stuff with the ball, right? And or Kyrie is, I'm sure, could talk a lot about playing with LeBron, right? Like it theoretically should be how it goes, but usually what happens is the young guys get banished, which is why the Lakers started 5 old men last night.
Right. No, you're right. Playing time is oxygen. So, but the other part of it is opportunity. So getting on the court is great, but if you're getting on the court to run to the corner, not so great. And I've coached more than a few players whose games flourished when a coach changed.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying the new coach was better. It just my first example was Kevin Martin, who under Rick Adelman was just a corner shooter.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Rick left after 2 years, he got fired. All the next coaches all sucked. But he averaged 25 a game by year 4 because they let him be a playmaker, not just a corner shooter. And so this is the balance. The best coaches do both. They find ways to win games. They coach up all aspects of the game. They help guys flourish and all of that. So this is the challenge every coach has to go through.
The Suns made the finals playing a bunch of young players last year, and I guess are still young. The Cavaliers, I think, are we right? Are they the hottest team in the league right now?
Yeah, 5 wins in a row.
Very young team.
Very young. I mean, Jared Allen's their veteran leader,
right?
And he's in his early 20s.
He used to count as the young net, and not very long ago, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think this is, I'm not going to be a general manager ever, but if I was, I would just be building my own academy, my own school on schooling the coaches, schooling our scouts, schooling our executives, and schooling our players to learn the game as fast as possible while developing skills, while getting more fit, all of that, so that we can be young and athletic, but not stupid on the court.
So that's, is that not your response to Doc Rivers, right? When he says they keep finding these guys and you started to say, no, they're making these guys.
Yeah. Whether Doc recognized that or not, I don't know, but that's exactly right. I think that we've always seen this. If there's going to be some irony to San Antonio if they don't do a deal, which they might, and I think they should trade Derek White and DeJounte Murray for Ben Simmons. If they don't, Pop won't be around, but they've got a bunch of players learning how to play. They're still losing a lot, but I think they have a lot of young talent. They've developed their guys. They're just short, that one key player yet, although Murray's getting there. There won't be in time to save them this year. The best teams develop their guys. And we've talked about the Warriors. Look at what Golden State's doing.
Yeah.
Toscano Anderson wasn't a high draft pick. He's an important player. Scary Payton, the second or third, whatever. I should know this. Important player. Jordan Poole, late first round pick. Important player.
Payton's just about the best defender in the NBA in advanced stats.
That's got to make Dad happy.
Yeah, seriously.
He's an unbelievable athlete too. Unbelievable athlete. And Kevon Looney, who they drafted. These two. There's Jordan Poole, Kevon Looney, late first round picks. Looney's had health issues and have been super important for years. And I think he's going to get paid next year. I think teams are trying to realize, oh, okay, he's pretty fucking good all the way around. He can't be your best first, second, or third player, but he'll make our best 3 players even better because he's a great screen setter, great passer, great defender, team guy, super high IQ. He's going to be head coach one day if he wants to be in the NBA. There's value to that guy, and having Draymond and Steph be with him so long, I'm sure has helped. And Clay.
And once you get to your Omer, your Sevens, and Gabe Vincent's and Toscano Anderson's, these are players every team could have.
Exactly right. Literally, I've been saying that to you since I've known you.
Yeah.
Right?
Every team has a shot at those players. They're just either not identifying the right ones or not developing them consistently. Right.
Typically, it's the latter. Yeah.
Yeah. Little report that Frank Vogel's on the hot seat. What do you make of that?
Well, okay. Bad franchises tend to do really fucking stupid things all the time. And they got lucky as hell with, the bump. I mean, they deserve to win the championship. Don't get me wrong, but they got LeBron and AD. This guy is done. I was never a huge Vogel fan. I thought he was fine. When they hired him, whatever. I was wrong. He was brilliant. And if you want to argue that he's not the right voice for this roster, you can argue that. I would argue it's harder to find him than the guys you're going to need to get to fix the roster. You're not going to find another guy like him. So change the roster.
Yeah.
Right. I think the Clippers have the right guy in LA. Don't fire him because Paul George is out and Kawhi is out. No, Ty Lue knows what he's doing. Don't give him the best players you can give him. Let him coach them up. The Lakers just do stupid stuff all the time. And they'll probably continue to do stupid stuff.
Well, it's a little broken, right? And the things that are broken aren't addressable, right? There isn't a transaction to fix the Lakers, but you can always fire the coach, right? That there's no salary cap limitations.
That's their answer. That's what you're saying. That's their answer. It's we're doing something. You can't accuse them of doing nothing.
Yeah.
But they should just do nothing and let him coach. I think what they should do is go find a bunch more Gabe Vincents and Toscano Andersons. Like, they're out there. Go find coach them up and let them play through their mistakes. I just finished the thought on Kuzma, who I might write about next week, but I've been talking about him for 4 or 5 days now with you. He's unrecognizable. Unrecognizable. His athleticism, rebounding the ball, his I read about the other day. And right when I said to you, I am worried maybe that he's getting a little bit selfish. All of a sudden, he's throwing more passes than I had seen before. I don't know what he can be, but it's someone the Lakers would really value right now.
Yeah.
Instead, they got Russell Westbrook, just swing and a miss right there. Or as you and I were saying off air, talking about the Mike Milken clone, they chose poorly. They chose poorly.
Wait, Chandler Parsons just retired? Isn't that like Devin had news that Chandler Parsons has retired?
Yeah, so.
That was. Did you see? Chandler Parsons did a very funny thing though, which is he like thanked John Hollinger for all the money. You see?
No, that's funny.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, pretty funny. All right. CJ McCollum recovering from the worst sounding injury I'm aware of, the punctured lung. Came back on limited minutes and scored 16 points and shot efficiently, played well. Yay, that's good. That's good for him. Happy for him. I thought that there was your definition of leadership is what?
To breathe spirit in the hearts and minds of others.
And listen to Chauncey Billups said it's not just good to have him back on the floor. It's good to have him back around the locker room and around the guys because he's one of our leaders and he gives us life. Yeah.
Well, you made a point to me earlier today. I said to you, well, part of it is just when you got a fucking good player on the court, it just gives you a reason to believe. Like you believe, hey, we're gonna be all right. We got CJ. But you made a point that it's more than that. It's off the court too. I honestly,
there's so many stories, but he's like just like a good employee. If you're working at, an insurance company, right? He's the guy who like gets everybody to dinner and texts to make sure you're feeling okay and wants to know about your kids. And he's an A student. He just is like he's gonna get an A on all those tests. And frankly, there will be a story for another day about like Dame as leader this year, right? But maybe not great, right? But CJ's doing his part in that, it seems.
He's easy to root for. He's easy to root for.
Easy to root for. They've won 4 out of 5, and I think there's a little bit of like, oh, the Blazers not so bad. Anthony Simons, blah blah blah. But let me just tell you, before we say the Blazers are any good, their schedule right now is starting tomorrow in Miami. 18 days with either 0 or 1 days off between games. They travel Miami, Boston, Toronto, Portland, Houston, Chicago, OKC, LA, Portland. That's just the travel. There are more games, 11 games in 18 days. It's just a meat grinder. I feel like if we get to the All-Star break and the Blazers have life, great, but unlikely. The tank is on.
And I don't think Portland typically has weather issues this time of year, but 4 of those cities do. And
and this year Portland does. This year they had all like 2 degrees and stuff.
Wow.
Like,
so that's 5. And that just means delays. But I mean, they're chartering their flight, but still you can't fly out of a blizzard no matter if it's commercial or charter. You're still got to wait. It's still an issue about that. So it just adds to the whole experience. And so you're probably right. Listen, if they go 8-3 and not 3-8, we're going to feel like, hey, good news. And maybe Damian may come back and actually be able to play. Let's see. But you're probably
the magical healing powers of ending your tank. Yeah,
exactly.
They lose their pick if it's outside the lottery, and they're on the bubble right now. They're right they would be in the play-in tournament if it started today. So, I'm sure that Joe Cronin, their interim GM, is sweating that a little bit, right? Yeah. Like if they lose that pick, it's gonna be hard to keep your job. Yeah. All right. Actually, Gerard, are you available? It seems like you're active because you're predicting the Blazers will go 3-8 over this 11-game stretch. It sounds about right to me.
I love that Portland's our new Knicks.
It's not bad though, 3-8.
It is bad.
It's not good.
Good basketball, yeah.
No, and I feel bad every time we do that. I'm like, oh, poor Henry, we're killing the Blazers again.
No, I have no urge to defend the Blazers. Like I'm so fucked up.
But you do care, like it matters. That little Henry Abbott boy in you.
Anthony Simons, that's the keeper. I love that dude.
Yeah. Well, oops, that's the one we don't have under contract. Whoops.
Nasir Little's doing good.
Nasir Little too. Yeah.
Which is a good story considering.
Ship the rest of them dudes out and keep Simons Little and figure it out from there.
Yeah, that's not where we wanted to be. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm relieved. I'll say this: I did not like Chandler Parsons coming out of Florida, my alma mater. I thought he just played soft. He was player of the year as a senior. He was old as hell. I was wrong. I quickly realized, he's fucking good when he was in Houston. But I thought I was going to be wrong about Anthony Simons too, because I told Henry from day one, this guy's got magic legs. He's got a shot, and then he learned to shoot.
Yeah,
and now he can play. He's good.
He's doing it all. He's
been in the league for what, 4
years? Yes.
And
was he the one who did the? No, I was Darius.
IMG.
Oh, IMG. Okay.
His highlight reel is absurd.
I asked someone like from in his camp who was very close to him, like, why hasn't he been better sooner when he wasn't doing all this? And they were like, he doesn't work out. Like, he doesn't lift weights. He's not strong. But if you look, do a photo examination of like 2 years ago versus now. Like,
yeah, you can see it.
Looks like he lifts weights now.
Yeah.
Same as Steph Curry. Yeah, these guys. It's a big part of the game.
Yeah. All right, Gerard. I think Charles Barkley was talking about like how far are the Nets going to fall in the East standings while coping with absent KD. What are your feelings?
The East, there are 6 teams right now that are 2.5 games within first place. I just think that they're going to be constantly within 2.5 games of first place throughout, even with KD being out, because for the Nets, fortunately, if you can count it as fortune for them, of their next 18 games, 14 are on the road, something like that.
Wow.
So that's a lot of Kyrie. And despite the loss against Cleveland last night, Kyrie looked pretty damn good playing basketball, right? And in terms of legs and, because we're getting to the point of the season now, because we're past the halfway point, dudes are tired and you can see it. Like, they're like, oh, crap.
But not that guy. One guy.
I haven't played basketball all season. I feel great. You know what I mean? So that's going to help them, is having a fresh 50, 40, 90 all NBA caliber guy who's played 3 games. That's kind of nice. Right. So I think they'll be fine, and they get some guys back. Claxton will be back. And the young guys are playing well. They are, as I said to coach on Friday, they're learning through their mistakes and they're making them, right? Because that's what rookies do. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing. But because of necessity and they have to play them, they're learning on the job, and this may be helpful later on down the line.
But
I want to stir up some. I want to hear what you think, David, but really fast. The Knicks, I just looked. So the Knicks are the 11th team, the ones that are outside the play-in tournament. They're 5.5 games back from Brooklyn. Like, come on, like, just make it exciting, Knicks. Come on.
The East is nuts. Like, it's so good. And because you also have teams that are like, not like, I'm not want to say playing with their food, right? Milwaukee's kind of playing with their food a little bit, right? Like, no one's coming out like we're trying to win 60 games this year, because the regular season doesn't matter in that context, right? These guys want to be healthy come April so they can roll. Anyway, Coach, what were you going to say?
So, well, everything you said was right about Kyrie, and I didn't know 14 of 18. How ironic is that? Yay, we're going on more road trips without Kevin Durant. Woo!
Good timing.
Yeah, that's amazing. What a strange season. These 3 seasons in a row that is fucking odd. The problem is Kyrie can't help them in the paint at all.
No.
And I read today, Claxton, maybe he could be traded, which to me would make no sense, but maybe there's a good deal. I think that, Gerard said it right. There's 6 teams. I think that's where they end up being, is the 6th seed. When Kevin Durant comes back. I mean, who knows who gets hurt tomorrow for some other team, but I don't think they'll drop below Charlotte at 7, who had a big win yesterday against the Knicks, I think, without LaMelo. I think they'll stick, and I think they're fine with that. Like, if they're going to be in the 6th seed, whatever, like, they're going to be good on the road no matter what, because they don't have to have a home court advantage. They probably would rather start the first 2 games they're playing series on the road. Right? That's what's so strange about all of this. I wonder, to me, Kevin Durant, my new nickname for him is the healer, because he just heals every wound you could have everywhere. He's CJ McCollum in terms of giving you belief, except he's Kevin Durant, right?
Just like a
and so they're not going to have the healer for a while.
just like a foot taller.
A foot taller, yeah. He's not. They're not going to have him for all this time. And now let's see, does Harden run out of gas a little bit, having to carry too much of a load? When the 4 games are at home, it's going to seem like it's 8 games because he's going to be on his own that way. They would, to what Gerard said, is brilliant because not only have they been doing it, they need to keep doing it and lose the games if they have to. Get these guys some experience, get them some reference points for the next game. So that come April, with which they'll be whole, hopefully, these guys are just operating at a better speed. The problem is that the East is crazy because there are a lot of good teams. And there's one team, I think, I'm not trying to say Gerard's wrong because I think he's right for 14 teams. There's one team desperate to kick your ass every fucking night, and that's the Heat.
Yeah. The Heat,
and maybe it's because
with their food. Yeah.
Right, maybe it's because they have these guys out, but they're coming for throats. I think the Raptors are too a little bit. They just aren't as talented as some of these other teams. They're young. Those 2 teams to me. And then on Milwaukee, they got to get Drew Holiday back.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried. I picked the Bucks to win it again. I'm a little worried about their depth. Brook Lopez they don't know if he's out for the year, but
yeah,
Bobby Portis on his own now at center.
Giannis at center is probably fine.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong on that, but it takes away their depth. Then
it does.
They only have one more center to play, and that's Bobby Portis is fine. When Drew gets back, I think we'll get a better feel for, okay, can they be great? And then none of it may matter. Right now, Phoenix is the best team in the league.
Yeah, Phoenix is playing awesome. The other point you made about Durant, Coach, I want to follow up on is, of course, we know what he does for you offensively and all that. That's the easy stuff. Like because Nash likes to play a lot of small ball, Durant gives them size. Like, and when he's engaged defensively, which he has been this season, that is a switchable 7-footer that can protect the paint. Like, right? They don't have that now. Now, Sharp, he's 6'9". He's been playing well in the post. They need Claxton to come back. If they're going to trade any of those guys, they better not trade them for a small person. They better trade for more big people because they need length.
Well, the stakes are high here, right? Like, so they're most likely to open the playoffs on the road against a good team. Mm-hmm. I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be, maybe those Heat. Who knows, right? And if they don't crush it, this is one of the grandest roster assemblies of all time, and then I don't know. Did you see this little report about one of the reasons Daryl's kind of dragging his feet about making a move?
Oh, it's because of Harden. Yeah, 100%.
Still free agent. It could be over soon.
This is the crazy thing about this put together, right? When everyone was putting it together, and all the naysayers were like, "Oh, everyone predicted disaster, right?" But no one predicted disaster in this way. Everyone was like, "Oh, they're not going to get along. That's not their issue. Their issue is staying on the floor, right? Yeah. Being healthy." Which I guess if you're over 32, which they all 3 of them, well, not Kyrie, but you could guess that, right? When you got that many miles and you're in your 30s, the likelihood of you staying healthy probably not high.
That's what I feel like. I say that with about every player over 31. That's my
it's
not going to work.
The Nets. If you're a Nets fan, your 2 favorite teams should be the Nets and anyone playing the Bulls. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want the Bulls to finish in first or second. Because if you fall down to 6, you might be playing Milwaukee or Miami in round 1. Mm-hmm. I don't think you want that.
No.
Yeah. Let them be the top 2 seeds.
Makes your road too hard.
Yeah. Let them be the top 2, and then you can be whoever the 3 seed is, you're fine. I think. Mm-hmm. You're fine. Doesn't mean you're winning 4 games, but you don't want to play Miami and Milwaukee in round 1, I don't think.
Well, and David, I was looking at your very astute assessment. They'll probably finish 6. But 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the Hornets, Wizards, Raptors, and Celtics. And the problem isn't that those teams are so good. The problem is that there are 4 teams that are, one of which will catch fire, right?
Yep. Like the Hornets.
One of those teams is going to have a 10-game win streak, and then you're sweating it, right?
Yeah, you definitely want to be 7, but I think the Nets are going to. I think Gerard's point was right. They're going to be able to win enough to not fall below. Well, I'm not so sure those teams will have a 10-game win streak. I think they're all pretty flawed for different reasons, and if Charlotte could ever decide to guard anyone that isn't named the Knicks, maybe they would be able to, because they could really be amazing on offense. But I just think Brooklyn's going to hold on to 6. They could do better than that. I mean, we're talking about a couple games different. They could be a 3 seed too.
Yeah.
But my guess is over this next month, it's more likely they're a 6 seed than a 3 seed.
No, yeah, I'm sure you're right.
I wonder, Coach, about Miami. You're right to mention that they don't play with their food. I worry about that. They play so hard every night. like there's a tax on that at some point, right? Like I feel like that's where their guys get hurt, not because they play so hard every regular season game, like it's the playoffs. Well, you can't do that for 82 plus the 18 you have to win, or 16, excuse me, you have to win.
Yeah.
Although they're putting those miles on Gabe Vincent right now.
Oh yeah, put it on those guys.
But which I mean, honestly, the Nets should do that, right? Like you build trust in your Gabe Vincent's on your roster, and now you're stronger in the playoffs.
Rest Harden. Honestly, I would consider not even playing him any home game. Don't let him be Rockets Harden for 4 games. Just play him on the road with Kyrie. And then you lose your home games, but at least you're resting your stars.
But do they have the young players to?
Oh, they'll get smoked.
No, but do they have like candidates so that they might develop trust in somebody by time of the playoffs?
Yeah, David Duke is pretty tough.
I do. I think the one. I mean, so Claxton's already done that. The one they're gonna find trust in, I think, is Kessler Edwards.
He's starting at small forward now, right?
Yeah, he's 6'7", again, size. You need that. He can shoot the 3, and he's got the defensive disposition. Now, like as coach says, rookies don't know what the fuck they're doing, running around with their head cut off, like looking crazy. And you can see where he knows shit. I messed up on that. Like it's gonna come, but you need reps. So do the reps now, and then maybe in the playoffs you put him in for 5 minutes, and he doesn't kill you. You're able to stay even.
What about Cam Thomas by postseason?
Well, they love Cam because Cam can score. Like, and that is a skill set that matters in the playoffs, right? Like, who can get a bucket? Like, he can get a bucket, so he'll play too for sure.
Yeah.
How great was it when KD like passed the game-winning opportunity to Cam?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's pretty cool, man.
And Cam loved it. Like he was like, we were going to run a 1-4 flat for KD, and this was a smart play by him, coach. He's like, I knew they were doubling, but instead of me staying down in the corner, I came up so I can get into KD's sight line, right? And then that gave him the drive lane to get right to the hoop. So that was, rookies are learning. It takes them a little while longer, but they learn.
And listen, they don't always learn at rookies either. I've coached many veteran players that were 3-point shooters who didn't really know how to create better passing lanes to themselves when they were opposite the ball. They don't know how to get open off the ball in space. Cutting is one thing. They don't know how to cut either typically, but they allow their man to both help and take them away at the same time. And there's a nuance. There's an art to shifting up or down out of the defender's peripheral vision to create a better passing angle for yourself. And the way to play cat and mouse too is make your guy think you're drifting corner, but then you're lifting above the break. There's things people like me have to do with players to get them. And then when they see it, like, oh wow, and then they just get way more open than they did before. Yeah.
We should look at the West really fast. Who's going to win the West? It sounds like, David, you're on the Suns.
I think so. Utah's kind of flaking out a little bit, and I can't say I saw it coming the way it's happening right now. But John and I've talked about this before too. They made some decisions. They fucked up the number 1 seed, the best team in the league last year. They decided, we're going to change things up. Okay, and now you've got Rudy Gay. When has he ever been a uniter? Whatever. Phoenix just is. They know who they are. Chris Paul is a massive genius at the simple fact of impacting wins. What are you doing to help your team win? It shows up that they're winning, and here's your metrics. What are you doing? He can write the book on it. Devin Booker is great. Ayton's very good. They've got all these role players. Monty's amazing now. And then the Warriors, we'll see. Steph has got to recover back. Let's see what Clay looks like. Let's see.
Draymond too.
Draymond coming back. Right. So I think they're really good, but I just favor Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Phoenix too. Utah, look, the Donovan Rudy thing is just looking weirder and weirder as the game goes on. I don't think that's a relationship that is long for celebrating their 50-year wedding anniversary. That's not a thing. Like I don't see it. And we talked about it before. Quinn's got to do something different in the playoffs and all that. So, of course, I love the Memphis Grizzlies. Fantastic.
I mean, legit. Like this is what we were talking about before with young. If you can be good and young, and that team is.
Yeah, I mean they're doing all the right things, and Taylor Jenkins has been out in COVID health and safety protocols the last 8-9 games. So
who's been out?
Head coach Taylor Jenkins. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So and they take on Ja's personality. If you saw that game last night, the little dust up with Tony Bradley, right? Like this is.
He's like, I can fight.
He's like, I can fight.
Can we show?
Maybe you can fight, but I'll take care of this guy.
Please don't fight.
Don't fight.
Yes, it's John. I get the John Morant thing, but Henry, do you see in there the Steven Adams bouncer extraordinaire? Have you seen this, Gerard?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really easier to be gruff when that dude's on your team. Because that guy, no one is going to fuck with Steven Adams except a crazy person.
Yeah, no, they're great. And I think you're right. Like Phoenix, Golden State, my concern for them is just Steph, right? Like making sure that he's fine. And the Draymond piece, I think what we saw too was with Draymond out, not just defensively how this impacts the team, but offensively, how they get into their sets, how they cut and move and all these things that wasn't happening when with Draymond out. So I think that's something to be, keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think the Warriors present lots of problems with what they do offensively and their team speed on defense, and then Draymond too. Sorry, Judy, I don't know what's wrong with that link, but I am someone who doesn't take on the approach of, well, you got to do it in the playoffs for me to believe. I don't buy that. Like Memphis lost in 5 games last year. They beat Utah in game 1, then got beat pretty handily the next 4. That's fine. Like this team is good enough, which is why we talked on Friday, Gerard, about making a deal. I don't remember who did I trade Zaire Williams for?
Oh God, who did you trade him for?
How did I freaking forget that? And Zaire's the Memphis fans are pushing back on it because he's talented.
Oh yeah, they're in our mentions being like, no, we don't want to do that.
Jeremy Grant,
yes.
Yeah, and I get it. Like I understand their point of view. Maybe there's someone better they could get, but I think Gerard's right. Phoenix is the favorite in my opinion. Now Golden State's right there, but Memphis can beat either of those teams in 7 games. They need a little luck. But they got John Morant. This is the healer. This is Kevin Durant. This is why Portland feels better when CJ's there. Having that guy gives you belief. It's one of the big things superstars do for your team.
And don't let this Memphis Grizzlies team win their first round series and get up a lead in the second round. Because they're a team that's gonna just feed off that. And the idea of being too dumb to know the stage you're on, that's how they're gonna be. But conference finals, whatever. They're just gonna be, doing their thing. I like a lot. There's so much to like about this team, and you hope it can stay together. But the history of the NBA has told me don't get too invested, Gerard, because these things break up real soon. So
because people get hurt, right? Every team, everybody gets hurt. Like one of those 3 teams, Memphis, Phoenix, someone's going to be 100% healthy in the playoffs, and that's probably your favorite, right?
Yeah.
Even the Jazz, honestly, the Jazz have had a screwed up year, but come on, they're going to be a great
team.
Yeah, they're going to be great.
Yeah, they've got defensive problems when Rudy Gobert is not in the game.
They're a disaster is what they are.
They're what?
They're
disaster.
Yeah, is what they are.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice Eric Spoelstra shoved Tyler Hero last night?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, what happened? I watched the game. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it in real time, but later I know. So Tyler Hero's standing on the left wing right in front of the bench, and they're bringing the ball up on the right side, and Spo just puts his both hands on Tyler's hip and just shoves him to the middle of the floor. And Tyler's like, oh, okay. And then he catches the pass, and then he scores on Scottie Barnes, and he gets a layup out of it. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
I have to see it, but I will tell you, I watched 5 minutes of NFL Buccaneer playoff game the other day, and there was something going on, and a Buccaneer player was about to get a major penalty, just talking a bunch of crap, whatever. And the head coach, who's a grandpa, I literally think he's a grandfather. I don't know who he is, but I know his name. Bruce Arians, all I know. But he looks almost 70 years old. I'm sure he's a grandfather. He kind of swatted the player through his helmet, basically, back the fuck up. I don't want you to get a penalty. And that gets people fired. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, and I'm not an apologist for any of it, and I haven't seen the Spoelstra play, but having twins and having dogs, we're used to, get out of the way. If something bad's about to happen, we don't mean anything by it. I just wonder if you're a fucking jerk all the time, I would be more suspicious of anything. I think I haven't seen the play, but I think he probably has a young kid. He's used to shoving around. Get away from the fire. Watch it. That dog might bite you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. What do you think?
I think I thought exactly that, where I'm like, okay, Tyler seemed okay with it, but
yeah,
some players are not going to be okay with that. Because
you better have
a dog
trust.
or a child, right? It does seem like a dog or a child.
No, your point is exactly right. If you do it and the player doesn't react the right way, well, then you shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is insensitive, but I'm just speaking from experience. There's things I've said. I've never physically done much of anything. I'm a small little guy in this world, but I've said some things to people in the past, players of mine, that I knew I was fine with and never think a second thing about ever, going back 30 years now. But because I earned their trust. But I would never say those things. Tyrus Thomas once said to me, he said, Coach, you're the only white dude who can ever talk to me the way my family does, because you've earned it. And I said, well, Tyrus, that was my entire intent. Like, that's the whole point of coaching, is that I can reach your soul so I can speak to you about important matters and get right to it right away and not have to now work on building trust. I already did that. And so you better have that. I think Spoelstra probably does. He's a very classy, professional worker. And Tyler Hero's gonna make a whole bunch of money. Whole bunch of money. I don't know if he's gonna be 6th man of the year, Gerard, but he's right there.
He's having a hell of a season. I mean, I read
Fucking
that
good.
something like this happens in practice all the time, where Tyler
Yeah.
floats out on the wing and Spose tells him cuts through, and he doesn't, or like his brain is thinking about IG models or whatever he's doing. And he's like, dude, get in the middle. Like I told him, he's like, oh yeah. Like, so that's how I read it. Like, you know.
But if like, well, you're as a coach, would you ever do that to somebody? Gerard?
What? Oh, would I push them like that? Oh yeah, for sure. But
You
it's,
would? Okay.
but like
I thought you were gonna say no. I thought you were gonna say the exact opposite.
no. But like Coach Thorpe said, though, it has to be someone who I know I can do that to and who I have that relationship with, right? There's some, no matter what your relationship is, that isn't how you reach them, right? It just isn't going to work. But a certain athlete who I know that works for them, absolutely.
I once, the word we used back then was I jacked someone up against the wall. That was a phrase. A big 6'5" freshman I had, might have been a sophomore at that point. I don't remember if he was trying to fight. It's been 35 years, whatever. But his name was Frank. I remember that. And I kind of lifted him up. He was skinny against the wall. And he came from the worst projects we have in St. Pete, as most of my guys did. And I had never thought twice about it. And someone asked me a little while later, our parents saw it was in practice. And I said, Frank and I have done a lot together. I was saving him and he knows what I was doing. I don't know if that was the right thing this day, but I think it was a fight that I was preventing. And, you know, I'm not sure I would do it anymore. Yeah, you have to think about it. But either way, you got to build trust with your guys.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think he don't trust Spoelstra.
That's a nice thing about sports in a way, is like, this is a way that you can be physical. That's not like problematic. Right.
Oh,
like,
I used to to get my players' attention, even now as pros, I always grab their tricep, which for me are these tiny little things, but these guys are big fucking guys. And I squeeze it pretty hard. If I'm really trying to get their attention, I'm not yelling at them. These are NBA players. I'm trying to catch a point to them if I think they're distracted. I feel like it's the one place I can definitely grab, except maybe a shoulder, but it's too high up in the air to grab their shoulder. Triceps right there.
hurts your shoulder.
Yeah. I love the Tim Duncan top of the head. I've had people tell me you can't use that as an example in corporate America. So to your exact point, Henry.
Yeah.
You can't do it at Pepsi.
No.
Like, you can do it with the Spurs. Hand on top of the head, giving guidance and love. Yeah. That's sports.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we're listening about Gerard, physical swim coach.
It just depends on who it is. I would always, if we have to talk about something serious, on the back of the neck, like around this side, I grab them this way. Like, come on in, we got to talk. And they knew, all right, this is going to be serious now.
Yeah. And do you know is there news breaking about Tyler Hero and IG models?
I mean, when you're rich and you're 20, whatever. I mean, what else are you thinking about?
I don't know. Yeah.
Focus
That's a great
issues can result. Yeah.
Right, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Great fucking line.
All right.
Really fucking funny.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Gerard.
Be safe.
See you guys Friday.